welcome once again to our program, Homeland Defense Live, our weekly program here on the radio station where we discuss issues of interest to the community of Statia. So we want to welcome all our listeners locally in the surrounding islands and also those following us further away via the internet. I'm Glenn Schmidt, host of the program today, and seems like today I will be here alone. So we want to welcome each and everyone to our program. Well, today it's Sunday, September 15, halfway through the month of September on a rainy and cloudy day here in Statia. Much deserved relief from the extreme heat that has been gripping the island for the last few days. And basically going back several weeks, we've been having some real hot weather here on the island, and I guess in the entire region. So the rain of today, light rain, not heavy rain really, most of the day light rains, started early, very early this morning and continues in a very cloudy and overcast state at the moment, so we are happy for that. Well, so what's in the news this week? Well, in the past week we discussed many of the topics that are affecting the island, and basically the topics keep coming back each and every week, because the discussions on many of these issues, you're never done with the discussions, because there are always more questions than answers. And so we continue to discuss these particular topics. Last week I think we mentioned briefly about the town hall meeting that was held, I think on the 5th of September, about a week ago, by the local government concerning the situation with the roads. And of course we said last week that there was not much new information that came out of that meeting, but still I want to mention some details that were reported on the situation pertaining to the roads. Of course we're talking mostly about all the roads in Statia need to be addressed, but the project in Cherry Tree that was started sometime I think early this year or late last year, and was supposed to be completed I think 2 or 3 months ago, but because of delays and for different reasons, the project again has been extended to be completed now sometime in March of next year. Well, in the report on the town hall meeting that was held on this subject, the first thing that leaps out at you is the fact that according to the commissioners, the budget available for fixing roads on the island is still $5.6 million. So that is still the money that they are working with. Although there are plans, to fix all the roads in Statia, and according to the report, those plans calls for an investment of at least $50 million, and that was an estimate from, I guess, several years ago. So by now that amount probably has gone up by several millions, but still at this point only the $5-6 million, and this $6 million, we've been hearing about this long before the Dutch government took over the administration here. We heard about the $6 million that was available for investing in roads, and we lost some of it because some of it was taken out to do something else or to pay consultants or whatever. And so we were left with that $5.6 million, and that is still what is available. We know from the Cherry Tree Road, okay, that was put out on bid, And following that, not so long ago, also the James Road was put out on bid. So that's a road now that should resurface the existing James Road that we use to go under the hill up to the terminal, and then a new parallel road like through the farm to meet up with the Sandy Road will also be constructed as part of that project. So you'll have two one-way streets, one heading north and one heading south. This week too it was reported, I think Knops, State Secretary Knops in charge of Kingdom Relations, he sent, because members of Parliament in Holland have been asking about the road situation. In his last report, Knops promised them that everything was on schedule and that roads will be completed on time, so he now had to retract in a new letter to Parliament, telling them that indeed, yes, there are delays. And he also reported that this James Road is also will be delayed now. I think the construction of that road hasn't even started yet. Yeah, but already now it is reported that there will be delays there because there need to be changes in the design of the projects. So let's see if we have a call there. Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, sir.
Talking about road, no roading onto this year at all. Don't think about this year.
Okay.
But I hear your partner passed the highest in Holland, man. Clive Van Putten.
Partner, Clive Van Putten, yeah, he passed the highest.
Yeah, but I hear he got to go community service too. You don't hear that one?
No, I did not hear that.
I don't know for what. I don't know if he get down road on the airport or what. I don't know.
Oh, from the airport case.
Maybe that's the only thing I could think on. But the common sense department is still open,
Yeah?
It's still open for whoever wants to learn to come in.
Okay.
Got too much of a mistake is made here station. You understand?
I'm hearing you.
Maybe I got to get a little more chairs and thing, but everybody is welcome.
Well, good for your partner that he passed the highest.
Yeah, I'm glad for him.
Congratulations to him.
But the only thing he got to control his temper. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think he could do that. He's too old for that now.
Well, never too old to learn.
Yes, you're too old to learn sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I believe in that.
Okay.
Albert Banner say he didn't believe in luck, but he got luck. But after a man gets a certain age, he don't learn no more. He's going back, according to the Bible. Once a man, twice a child. What do you say about that?
Yeah, maybe they just refuse to learn. Not that they can, they just refuse to.
No, but you got some people can't learn. They're limited.
Okay.
Okay, that's all for now.
All right, thank you for that. All right, so the James Road projects too now also delayed. Yeah, but my main concern with these roads, why if there is a plan, a master plan for all the roads in Statia, why doesn't the Dutch government just say, okay, we are going to fund the master plan? That's why I said some time ago, for the next 10, 15 years, we're going to be talking about roads still. Because the way the Dutch government, how they like to do things is piecemeal. They're going to give you a little piece today and a little piece tomorrow, and when they think you need the other piece, they give you the other piece. And so they're going to be approving little bits and pieces of monies for roads, for the next 10 years. If they approve and say, okay, we're going to set up a master plan for Statia, well, the plan is there already, and we're going to appoint $20-30 million reserve for that purpose, and so as soon as one road done, we can follow up with the other. Also to keep the contractors occupied, to keep the contractors busy, and their workers, the people that have working for them. At least you can offer prospect of work for the next 10 years, at least where roads is concerned. There's work there to be done, I think, for the next 10 years to get all the roads in Statia fixed and all, and then on top of that, the maintenance. And that is one of the issues that also was discussed about these maintenance-free roads. They want to construct roads that require little to no maintenance for a period of up to 10 years, perhaps. Well, so I guess the experts who are familiar with that know that depends on the materials that you use, and they're saying because of the limited funds that the island has available, for budget to fix roads, etc., and for infrastructure, that these maintenance or near maintenance-free roads are best to build here in Statia. And then the issue again about I think there was something also about the drainage of the roads. Again, you have to question, why is there disagreement, about the type of drainage that is necessary. I mean, we supposed to have experts who have designed these roads and put all the technical details of these roads in place, so why is there disagreement about the effectiveness of the drainage system that is being used? Of course, a lot of people will say, well, local knowledge, and how locals know how when it rains heavy in the island and etc., the force of water and what it can do, compared to what happens elsewhere. In Holland is a country, is mostly flat country, so I guess they have different issues where water is concerned. They have flooding problems, but here it is about the force of water running downhill. But still, when these plans are made up, I think with the expert explanation and with based on experience, there should be some level of agreement, that okay, this is the way we have to do it. Not after the plans have been made, after the plans are done, you're ready to execute the project, then there are going to be questions about the design. But okay, maybe these questions about the issue of drainage is maybe local persons who are bringing this up because they do not agree with the system that is being used. So maybe on the expert side, and we have the local departments of infrastructure, they hopefully are in agreement with what needs to be done. Well, you hear the common sense department saying roads are not going to be done this year. We know none are going to get done this year. That's why we know James Road, as was announced, will be completed hopefully in March next year, and that's Cherry Tree Road, and James will be sometime after that. So again, I'm sure in the future we'll be talking more about roads, and also they talked about buying land, to widen some of the roads. That too is a process that's going to take time, but that too is something that needs to be done. Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, Miss Smith again.
Yes, Mr. Common Sense.
I haven't not know the election at all.
Well, we ain't heard nothing yet, but should come any time now.
Yeah, but it's half of the month, today the 15th. By next week we should know.
Very possible in this coming week we might hear something.
Well, the answer will be no election.
Yeah, that's what you think?
Yeah, I said that. First thing, I'm find a school, they ain't get to do no road, they ain't get to do this, they ain't get to do that. But the only thing they get to do is build a Bengang and all of that. But they ain't get to do nothing else.
So they ain't
But I notice a lot of people in States are getting sick now.
Yeah?
With this heart problem.
Okay.
So I don't know what is the problem. I know we're living under stress. I know that is one. I hear the Democrat Party say the best thing happened to States when the Dutch come in.
Yeah.
But I don't see it. I don't see nothing that the doctor sent to come here. Nothing at all. Fella come and say Martin with a letter to give the Udongo here. Government front desk. You can't see Udongo till next week. But what is the problem to see a doctor? Everything gone bad in station all on a sudden.
Well, you say a lot of people sick, so maybe too many people got to
Huh?
see too many people got to see the same doctor.
No.
So you have to make appointments.
Yeah, but they got different doctors too much time. I don't know if they're performing good or what. But every fella like to go to a doctor where he could sit down and talk to and explain him your sickness or what.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
But Odongo wants to give Eddie Spanner 2 weeks off because I noticed they got stressed Eddie Spanner. But he can't give it to me. I have to go by a nurse to hear what she's going to say. So what kind of thing that is? The doctor don't have, the nurse have more power than the doctor. You ever hear that in history? Everything is stated gone backward. The only thing happened good for us, we get some rain this morning. That's the only thing. Everything is stated backward.
So nothing improves when the Dutch come.
Nothing improved. If you watch,
Healthcare.
if you watch the road too hard, you got to put up. Everything your paying increase, nothing increase. Just everything is stuck. So how it could be better? In the thing we can't get them here neither.
You say no election coming, so that means at least another year under this regime.
Maybe 2021, they might get the election.
Yeah.
But you got to blame the politicians. Some of them.
Okay.
You don't see they ain't coming to the radio, they ain't saying nothing. God didn't know what to do.
They're keeping a low profile.
Huh?
I said they're keeping a low profile till election come.
Yeah, but all are working on all of that.
Yeah.
The back election and lead them suffer for a while. You don't see they locking up in Martin all the time?
Yeah.
One of these days, they might come and say that, you know, one of these days, everything will take time, you know.
Okay.
Everything will take a time, one of these days. That's all for now.
All right, thank you. Common Sense Department. Okay, last week we mentioned about the murders aboard tankers, etc. Well, this week I think the suspect in that case was, sent out to Bonaire, where he required some medical treatment and will later go on to Holland, where he will be handed over to the Italian authorities, who will continue with the case concerning the murder and also the other person that died here aboard another tanker a few days earlier, a person from Guyana. His body was also released to his families. I think it was transported to St. Martin, and his case is not considered a crime, probably died just of natural causes. The reorganization of government departments, well, we talked a lot about that over the past months since it was announced. Well, everything seems to be pretty quiet since now the reorganization is being put in effect. We've heard in the past weeks of many changes, persons who have been moved from this department to the other, and there doesn't seem to be much, at least not outwardly, that we, the public out here, can see. There doesn't seem to be much objection, much protest. Of course, within the civil service there's a lot of talk going on. Some are not happy with their new placement. There are talks of some saying they would refuse the new position, etc. But so far we have not heard, at least publicly, much protest pertaining to the changes that have been made. Well, I guess one of the reasons is job security. Although you may not be happy with your new placement, Important is that you have a job to go to still, and as the rule is that at least it would not affect your pay. So you go to a new location, but your pay will remain the same. And that is the question again that is going to still linger. What will this do for improvement of government service? Will this really mean an improvement of the government service, an improvement of the civil corps? That was the objective. Reduce the amount of staff, but also improve the quality of the civil service. I think I reported here when I had my meeting with Mr. Stahers about this. He said that we want to create a new civil service. We want to create a different kind of civil servant. So now that this plan is being implemented, the question is, how is it going to change the civil service? How is it going to improve the service and the service quality? We haven't heard. I guess in the planning there are plans for further upgrades and training of the staff that will be necessary, to really improve the functioning of these civil servants. So one of the questions that was asked, is if the whole operation was meant to basically cut back on government expense, cut back on the cost of civil servants. And according to Mr. Stakers, that was not the case, because they were looking to employ better qualified persons for the different departments. Well, I didn't hear any new employments yet, other than some European Dutch persons who have been put in certain positions, but that, he said, is the intention. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, Mr. Smith, me again.
Yes, sir.
This position where your brother had on his foot, the manager, they put a Dutchman over there for there now. They had no local could do it.
Well, I understand the Dutchman is there temporarily in an interim capacity until they find
what?
Someone else to take it over.
You don't believe in that. Every position in station they got a Dutchman there, a Dutch person there. That's the idea.
But I hear, okay, go ahead.
They take over the whole island altogether. That's the plan. So they don't want the local to do no work. Hold a position here. That's a shame. Only the Democrats say, oh, by a good thing Holland come in. You're taking away the local jobs. Oh, it could be better. You put away.
Hello.
Other people, fella, I think Carmen is the man. That fella, the bright fella, he could be an airport manager. I forget what you call him. Tell him to upgrade a what he passed the highest in the tower and everything. Why? Money, the head of the airport. Why do that? And they say you come to do better. So doing what?
Well, I understand that's the intention, they say that's the intention. Whether it's going to happen or not, we have to wait and see. That the intention is to find a local to fill the position.
A lady months ago here by my place. She says, Pana, your address something changed. That's it. So if you change it, I used to change it. I live here for 54 years. So if anything changes, I change it. And I just turn out. It's just want to instead of doing different to what the local government doing, but it's doing what? They ain't come here to do better. But this thing about road, not a road in those stations now. All of the road, those stations, station man do all the roads. All on a certain concrete and go to more. Hello?
Hello, you there?
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Well, we got a little shortage in the line. I don't know what is causing it, but sometimes you fall away. Anyway, Common Sense Man is very pessimistic about the changes that are to come. And of course, yeah, we talk about that a lot of times, replacing local persons with foreigners. I mean, that too was an issue I discussed with Mr. Stakers. And of course, he denied that that is the intention, because he says bringing in Europeans, will only make the situation worse or even more expensive, because they will only stay for 2 or 3 years, and then after 3 years you have to replace them with another set of people, So according to him, they would prefer to have local persons here remain in many of the positions, so that you don't have that constant turnover, especially at the top. You need to have leadership at the top that is not changing every few years. Well, we had, I think, we have, I think, 3 directors in the government now. The director of infrastructure and economy, you have a director, I think, of social affairs and health, and you have one, I think, under which finance, etc. fall. Well, I think 2 of the 3 directors at least now are local Caribbean. Mr. Reid, we discussed, is the director of infrastructure and economy, and I think Mrs. Carol Jack is still the director of public health and social affairs on that end. And the 3rd director, I'm not sure who's fulfilling that role right now. If there's a director heading that other department, where among others personnel affairs and finance, etc., falls under that. But at least 2 of the 3 directors, we can say, are occupied by West Indians. And I think those persons, well, we discussed last week, Mr. Reid was officially promoted now, I think, as the director, no longer interim. Ms. Carol Jack, I think, is also permanent in her position. And so I think if they can find another local, or at least Antillian, to occupy the other director, and at least the 3 directorates will be headed by West Indian persons. And the European persons, I know we have a lot of European persons, yes, in the different departments, who are there to support and to help and to assist. We must expect that those positions are temporary, that eventually those European persons will leave and make room for other local or Antillean persons. So let's hope that is how it's going to work. But the danger and the risk is always there, and the possibility is always there that they can find all kind of reasons why to find, just like how to find reasons to bring the Europeans in. You have them in personnel affairs, you have them at the census office, you have them now at the airport, you have, they can always find reasons and excuses to bring these people in from time to time and keep them there, maybe longer than necessary. But it's something we need to just keep an eye out for. And when there's another local government, they, of course, can, reverse some of these appointments. Good afternoon, Colin.
Yes, Smith.
Yes, mister.
Anytime you see a Dutchman holding a position here now, not a local will get a chance again.
Okay.
That's the idea. That's what they come here for. So they not move temporarily, tell the foreigner until you know what. The Dutchman will stay there all the time. He will win.
Well, let's hope not.
But that's the idea. They're taking over the whole country. That is the problem.
Well, like I say, when you have a new local government, they probably can change some of that.
No, they're going to leave all the laws in place. You can't change nothing. Whenever, if Holland do leave here, where they gonna live? They're gonna leave all the rules here. Certain things but the government could do the local.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. You follow it?
Certain things what the local government could do. When Holland leave or whatever, if you do leave, you can't do no more. Everything will be on paper.
Well, so we have to wait and see when they announce this election, what other rules and regulations they're going to put in place.
Okay, look for 2021.
Okay. 2021, there's the common sense man. Yeah, of course, the elections is the other topic. And Mr. Knops, of course, announced that he will make a decision this month, in the month of September, about whether elections, not whether, but when elections will be held in Statia, yes, whether they will be held in 2020 or not. And if they are not held in 2020, then the last opportunity is in 2021, because the special law that they passed to accommodate the takeover mentions, that no later than 2021, in December, they have to announce new elections. So, if as the common sense department says, no elections in 2020, then we can be assured that they will have to happen in 2021 for sure. But we have to wait on the official word from Mr. Knops. I think around the middle of the month this time, he's supposed to report to the second chamber about that. So today being the middle of the month, at least in this coming week, we might hear something on Tuesday. Tuesday, of course, is in Holland what they call Prinsjesdag, and that is the day when the government in Holland announces all their plans for the coming year, and when the budget is presented to the Parliament in The Hague. So on Tuesday coming, the King will give his so-called throne speech, in which he will outline the plans of the government for 2020, and later that day the finance minister will submit its budget. I don't think that the news about the election in Statia will be part of the King's speech. I guess it's not that important for the Queen to make that announcement directly. So I think it will be coming directly from Mr. Knops himself. But you never know what we will hear when the King gives his address on Tuesday. So Tuesday coming is the 17th. 2 days from now will be the Prinsjesdag in Holland. And who knows what we will hear about Statia or about the other islands in the Parliament speech. You're listening to Homeland Defense Live for weekly program here on Radio Statia. 318-2722 is the number you can call us if you have a question or comment to make, or if you have any particular issue you would like to address yourself. Call us on 318-2722, or you can send me a message on 318 or 319-5453. 318-319-5453. So, budget plans next week. Well, in the past week, we also had new parliamentary years opened in the Caribbean islands, Caribbean countries, Curacao, Aruba, St. Martin. They also had their opening of their new parliamentary year, and 1 week later this will happen in Holland. Holland, St. Martin, if we talk a little bit about there, we know there's been a development there in the government also with Mr. Franklin Myers declaring himself independent in the St. Martin Parliament, so no longer supporting the government. That means the St. Martin government has lost its majority support in the Parliament there. There is up to now no indication whether there will be new elections held in St. Martin again. I mean, St. Martin has had so many elections since 2010 when they became a country. They've had quite a few elections, I think, and hopefully they will not have to go through another election again. They had an election since Hurricane Irma devastated the country there in 2017. They had an election the following year in 2018. So hopefully they don't have to go to another election again in St. Martin. And so we don't know what is going to happen there right now. And also Mr. Franz Richardson was released from his detention. That is a member of parliament, leader of the U.S. party. You know, he was arrested, I think, about a week ago, a little more than a week ago, on allegations of accepting bribes and misusing his office. And, well, he was held for a few days and now has been released. But, of course, his case will be continuing in court. And I think this is the second case that is held against Mr. Franz Richardson. Some time ago, maybe a year ago too, he was arrested in a different case. And of course we have Mr. Theo Heiliger still out there waiting his court case for also allegations of corruption over there in St. Martin. And we, in connection with all of these cases, we hear every day basically in the Dutch Parliament and in the Dutch news a lot of talk and discussion about the situation in the islands. And it's becoming a bit disheartening to hear all the negative news all the time from the islands, not only St. Martin but also in Curacao, what's going on there, the financial situation, the situation with the hospital in Curacao that is in bad shape, the financial situation in Aruba. I mean, bad news can't done, and again, of course, not that bad news only in the Dutch Antillean island. There's bad news all over. It's also a lot of bad news coming out of Holland itself, but we only hear about the problems and the negative things that are happening, the bad news, but very little about, solutions, very little about how do we help the islands or the countries, to overcome their situation. They're small islands, with small populations, with big responsibilities, and rather than just questioning all the time, questioning what's going on, what they're doing wrong, what they're doing bad, why not come up with some solutions? Why not a little more emphasis on support for the islands? The islands are not in this situation because of gross mismanagement or whatever. St. Martin has to deal with the effects of a hurricane that basically, flattened the island 2 years ago. Similar, maybe not as bad as what is happening in the Bahamas today, but it was horrible in St. Martin. Curacao and Aruba are suffering the effects of this Venezuela crisis. Those islands got a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists out of Venezuela, and with that business falling away, it's affecting the economies there very negatively. And then you have all of these Venezuelan refugees that are also going to Curacao and Aruba, and to a lesser degree Bonaire, and causing a lot of also additional financial strain on government to house them, to take care, to feed them, take care of families, provide jobs for some of them who are able to work. So the islands simply find themselves in an unfortunate circumstances that are affecting them. So we should not, as some in Holland, in the Dutch Parliament are trying to just place it all on as a matter of how you say, incompetence or corruption and those type of things. This is the similar scenario, that will happen before the breakup of the Netherlands Antilles, before Holland, cooperated and orchestrated to a certain degree the breakup of the Netherlands Antilles, because there were so many problems, so many issues, and rather than giving assistance, rather than giving help to help the islands out of their situation. I'm not saying the Antillean situation is the exact same like what is going on now, because some of the Antillean islands themselves, wanted to get out of the constellation because they find it wasn't working out for them, but Holland willingly and gladly worked along with the politicians of the day to break up the country, the Netherlands Antilles, and since then, I think all the islands have basically gone backward in so many different ways, and the pressures on them from Holland directly and through the CFT, and has gotten more and more, and putting a lot more pressure on the governments to be able to do what they have to do. Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, good afternoon. This is the last call.
A
lot of patients die in Seychelles. The long ride to Colombia.
Yeah.
When I come to Seychelles 40, 50 years ago, everything was sinking. Where did Colombia come in? I hear a lot of people say before they go to Colombia,
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, before they go Colombia, what?
Other than.
Yeah.
God, the flight so long. So I don't know where this Colombia come in.
Okay.
I don't know where the Dutch, I don't know if they got some business doing them there or what. Because before you reach, before you reach a Dutchman to pick you. So it's some money making. What you cut off thing it for? If you feel sick now, you go get that. They cut off all of that.
Well, they want to control the whole system, from beginning to end.
You don't get.
Well, caller, you're breaking up. I don't know why, and you're falling away sometime.
But they got to bring back. Hello?
Yes, they got to bring back what?
They got to bring back Sinket.
Okay.
Because Colombia is too far. My partner was died to Carlton. He said they leave him in St. Martin so long. When you do reach Colombia, he don't have that already.
Yeah.
Let's just say, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, caller, we have some kind of shortage going on here, because I'm not hearing you all the time. You there, caller? You gone? Okay. Okay. Well, of course, the health care situation, well, also a topic we've discussed a lot here on this program and in other programs and forums. The health care issue is always a major issue. And of course, in earlier times, people traveled to St. Kitts a lot for medical attention. And yeah, those who are able to do so, I guess, still do so. And because, yeah, it can reduce your waiting time, reduce the time of you knowing exactly what is happening. St. Kitts has made a lot of progress, like I say, from way back 50s, 60s. I too know people have always been going to St. Kitts to see a doctor, and that is still ongoing today. Quite a few people go to St. Kitts, I know, still to get medical attention, and they have improved their systems there. Well, I myself have never been there for medical reasons, but from what I've heard and what I've read, They have improved a lot of their medical facilities there. And for example, availability of MRIs and those type of things are readily available there in St. Kitts. And as always, they have a wide contingent of doctors. So yeah, if you are able to go there, of course you can go. But of course the healthcare system that we fall under right now, that was put in place since 2010, of course it's a Dutch control system. It falls under the responsibility of the Dutch government, the Dutch ministry, in addition to our tax monies that are helping to fund it. I guess they add some extra funds to it. And yeah, we've discussed a lot about Colombia. Colombia is a country that is big in the area of medical tourism. So people travel from all over the world basically and go to Colombia for medical treatment because the service there seems to be good, the doctors seem to be good, and the price is relatively cheap, affordable. So of course, for a country like Holland, having to provide medical treatment to islands in this part of the world, which is compared to Holland in a remote part of the world, it is an easy decision for them. Well, let's send them to Colombia because there they can get all the specialists and doctor care that they need. Folks still go to other areas, St. Martin, of course. We always go to St. Martin, but some folks still go to Curacao and Aruba and Guadeloupe, depending on the issue. So people go to different destinations still, but of course Colombia still, I think, is the main destination when you have serious medical needs, issues. And generally, I think we all agree too, that generally what you hear from those people who have been there is, people like the service, they like the care that they get there, and they find that the doctors and nurses there are very professional and they know what they're doing. Of course, a few people have died along the way, and that can happen. You cannot avoid that, but of course the travel time, that is a big problem. And of course we know all the complications dealing with the ZVK here, the ZVK office here, or whether the whole system, in Bonaire and etc. And lots of complaints have been lodged about that, both here and in Saba. And at least they seem to be trying to do something about these things very slowly. We talked some time ago about some pilot program that is going to be taking place in Saba, where Saba will be able to make more decisions locally pertaining to referrals and preparing persons for referrals, like travel arrangements and doctor appointments, rather than those things being regulated from Bonaire, that folks in Saba themselves will be able to arrange those things, so bring it closer to the patient, and so there will be less complications, less mix-up, and also less delay. Of course, having to travel from one island to the next by aircraft, by plane, or by helicopter, well, helicopter for emergencies, but otherwise you travel on regular passenger planes. And then you have to go through all the procedures like any other passenger. You have to check in way ahead of time, you have to wait on the plane, you have to fly when you arrive, you have to go through immigration procedures, and and as a sick person, of course that's a lot of added stress on a patient. And not every patient, and sometimes you have someone accompanying you, but there are many patients too who have no one accompanying them. So it can be very stressful for those persons. Well, I don't know what can be done much different. At least like in Saba, we can start by having the local office here too. make the arrangements for travel and for the stay over there, doctor's appointments, because there is a lot to be improved in that area. There's a lot of problems still existing in those areas. Well, in the news this week, there was news about ZFICA meeting with the Executive Council of SABA, having meetings over there. And they also talked about the merger of ZFICA with the Youth Care and Family Guardianship. I don't know exactly what that organization is all about there in SABA. I know here in Statia we have the, how you call that? The Youth and Family Center, I think that's how it's named here, Center for Youth and Family. I don't know if it's the same thing in SABA, Youth Care and Family Guardianship, that they are going to merge with the ZFICA in SABA. Well, I don't know what these two organizations have in common. That there's a need to merge them, a Youth Care and Family Guardianship, with the Health Insurance Office. So I don't know if that's something unique to SABA, or that the same thing will be happening here in Statia as well. But I think some months ago we had a petition drive here in Statia also, where complaints were forwarded to the ZFICA about the problems that people here were confronting. Also after, like the caller said, after the death of individuals here in Statia, and there were so many complaints as to why this or that had to happen. There was a petition drive here, and persons submitted letters of complaints about various situations. Well, since then I haven't heard of much progress. Well, we only hear that Statia 2, they are going to be meeting with government here, and they're going to make changes here in the way things are done, but when exactly this is going to happen, we don't know. So it's an ongoing problem with the ZFICA, issues with the ZFICA, and I guess we'll hear in the coming weeks and months whether there will be changes in the way things are being done. Once again, folks, you're listening to Homeland Defense Live here on Radio Statia. I'm Glenn Schmidt. You can call us at 318-2722. We have just a few minutes left on the program, 318-2722. And you can send me a message on 318 or 319-5453. Well, we talked already about the elections, which are supposed to be announced any time soon, and once those are announced, then of course, I guess, well, the common sense man say no elections in 2020 until 2021. So again, we're going to wait and see what will happen there. One other topic I want to mention, which I find is important for the island, is I read in the papers these weeks a project on reforestation here in Statia. Reforestation meaning the planting of trees on the island. And I think this is a very important project. I think Statia really needs a project like this. I don't think it's the first time that we heard about a project announcing reforestation, but since then I haven't seen any big reforestation activity going on. I think 2 weeks ago there was a planting of 1 or 2 or 3 grape trees. But when you talk about reforestation, it means on an island like Statia, there is a need to plant, for example, thousands of trees. because most of the islands, when I drive around Statia, you go in the countryside, Zealandia area, is very little trees, unless you go way up the mountain or out behind somewhere out there. There a lot of the land is very dry and empty, very little trees, shade trees where you can go and shade under a tree. So I think the reforestation project is very important for Statia. I think it is very much needed, and I hope that that there is indeed a bigger activity planned where this is concerned, that there is budget, to buy these trees that are needed to be planted all over the place. I mean, in the past few months, I've read stories in other countries, in Africa, for example, in Ethiopia, where and India, where they attempted, or they said they would plant 100 or 200 million trees in one day, or in the space of a week. They want to plant hundreds of millions of trees, because they have the same problem there in many of those countries with deforestation. Of course, we hear about the burning of the fires in the Amazon area, where there too, the process is continuing to destroy the rainforest, and the rainforest is so much needed for a healthy planet. But in some countries, it is already so far gone, that so many trees have been cut and eliminated, that it becomes a hazard, a health hazard, because many of these barren lands now, they are prone to flooding, and they are prone to flooding, and so replanting trees, etc., is one way to combat that erosion problem that we also have here. And so again, I hope that this I think this is a project where Stinapa is also involved in this, and again, I hope that there is ample budget, to really undertake a large-scale reforestation project here in Statia. Statia is a small island, small community, and we have so much development going on, because you have homes being built. So every year new areas of land are being cleared for building of homes and other infrastructure, so the land available. So how much land is really available for reforestation? How much of the land is public land? Because private lands, people want to use their private land for whatever purpose, for housing or other business development. So you cannot force them to plant trees on their land, but for whatever public areas, even in parks, there are many areas where we have parks, where in the parks and in the public areas the trees are dying, and in those areas new trees can be replanted. So I hope indeed that everyone gets involved, the schools especially gets involved in this, so that the youngsters can make it a fun activity for the youth to go out and plant some trees, but of course the entire population can get involved in that. Well, let me close off on something we've talked about a lot, and that this week again also the Ombudsman talked about the issue of the poverty, how many of our islands senior citizens, elderly persons, are living in bitter poverty, he called it, we've talked about the issue of poverty so much over the years. Like I said, this is not since our 2010 issue. This is something going back away in the Netherlands until he's 25 years, 30 years. We're talking about poverty alleviation. And, it's just disheartening again to hear the ombudsman again has to bring up the issue of poverty, of seniors and many elderly persons that are living in poverty, and the cost of living for them who have to survive on just an old age pension, and and the problems are known, but the solutions are coming so slow. I mean, the ombudsman used terms like bitter poverty and persons being hardly able or even unable to make ends meet. The cost of living, he says, in the islands is almost twice as high as in Holland, and he says that the AOV here is roughly the same as over there. And many seniors cannot afford to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, and there are very little special benefits available, and when they are available, the seniors are not aware that certain benefits are available. There is no public transportation, and so persons become isolated. It is not uncommon, he said, for the elderly in the Caribbean Netherlands to live under inhumane conditions. The implementation of a policy that secures their livelihood must really be given priority. According to the National Ombudsman, this is a Mr. Van Zutphen, and he's an ombudsman who visits the island regularly. He comes to Statia, Saba, Bonaire to talk with folks who have issues with the government. But yeah, like we say, this is a topic we've talked about so much, about alleviating poverty here in the islands, but the action from the side of government who has to do something about it, is going so slow. And have to wonder whether they really take the problems of the seniors seriously. And so we can only hope again. Again, we hear in the Dutch Parliament many questions are being asked. Every now and then you hear one of the parliamentarians asking questions about the poverty, asking questions about poverty and poverty alleviation and what the government is doing and what the government is planning, but real solutions are just not coming through in a timely fashion. So I guess we'll be hearing more about that. Well, folks, that's going to be it for today. We want to thank you for... I think I have a message here. Let me see if I can read this message. No, so this person says here, how can we plant trees with roaming animals? Well, that's the point. Can't plant trees with roaming animals. So if there's a reforestation project, I hope they've taken that into consideration, and so that this project again wouldn't be wasted. So thank you for that. Thank you folks for joining us on the program today. I invite you to tune in again next week, Sunday, God's willing, same time, same station, when we'll be having another program, Homeland Defense Live. I'm Glenn Schmidt, saying have a pleasant rest of your Sunday.